Hey, well, Trent, stay on the line because you know the guy who's coming on here.
Yeah. Okay.
We're joined now by another Nashville wrestling notable, Andrew Becker.
Hello there.
Welcome to the show. I know a lot of Georgia folks aren't too familiar with you. I mean, you've been a wrestler, referee, TV producer, and so forth. And turns out you know Stephen Platinum.
Oh, Lord. And he at the early beginning of the broadcast, he said he can't. I'm not one of his kids, but the first time I was ever in the ring, Steve Platinum was running the training session. If I'm not mistaken, back in 2003.
This is gonna be a good story.
So, Andrew, put me in time. Was I at WWA 4 or was this?
Yeah, WWA 4. I was at Auburn, and I went online and found this wrestling school, and it was like, hey, that's only 2 hours away. So, when I didn't have, extracurriculars going on, I would just, drive out there, and then when the semester got harder, I kind of, slowed down. But I remember, the basics that you taught us. We had a brand new trainee, and I was like, I was explaining the way that was, that certain things were explained to me back, in I guess January or February of 2003.
Wow. So, I mean, just to confirm, I was a prick, right?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say. I mean, because now having been around, because I took a break to finish college, and then kind of came back in Nashville, but like. The guys that you got, you were trying to get them ready. But I don't remember, I remember the only thing, you do these hell days on Thursdays, but it's like, you have to have the cardio to go. You have to. And so there's no, you just told it like it is. Because otherwise, someone else is going to hang you up later.
Oh my God, Hell Day. So I'll just briefly say what Hell Day was. We, at WWA 4, there were 4 rings. They have 4 wrestling rings in that joint. And so Hell Day was, I would stand in one ring, and correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, Andrew, and, one at a time the wrestlers would come in. They'd have to hit the ropes 10 times and then take a back bump in the first ring. Then they'd go to the second ring, hit the ropes 10 times, take a front bump, and then take an ass bump, and then take a face bump. And then you'd come into the ring with me, and you'd have to lay down and I would cover you. And if you kicked out, I would stand you up and chop the shit out of you, and then you would do it all over again. Because it was, but if you were done, if you were exhausted, you would just let me pin you. Because I was trying to get out of their heads that it mattered if you got pinned or not. That you had to, sometimes that was part of the business, and it was an excuse to hit people, which I was all about. So that was Hell Day, and Andrew survived them. So that alone gives you some kind of credential with anybody who had to go through it. Larry, do you have a question for Andrew, please?
Yeah, I'm curious. Well, I'm curious about a couple things about you. You've always had a unique perspective on pro wrestling, and I'm curious, how did you move into the TV production stuff that you started doing with NW Main Event, and then later with RGE and so forth?
Okay, so when I was at Auburn, I was studying communication. Or at least I think when I met Platinum, I hadn't even figured out, what I was doing. I transferred to Middle Tennessee State University my sophomore year, and I had a roommate that was, trying to win the film festival. He ended up winning it 3 or 4 years in a row. And when they did that, I bought the camera off of him because he already had a camera. The prize was one of those little Sony Handycams, the first, the Handycams. So when I went back to I went back to Auburn to finish up, and I ended up interning at a radio station. And because I had some video background, I was, pretty solid as an audio editor. And so I was doing stuff in the radio station. They were making the transition from, they were using the tape to tape, and then all of a sudden we had, what was it? The digital. The things were starting to go digital, and we could speed up production processes, things like that. Fast forward, I finished my master's degree in Nashville, where I grew up, and found a wrestling promotion. I started training with Chase Stevens, and then we were at when Mike Porter was running the fairgrounds, and one day he just you want to hold a camera, and then eventually it became a year and a half later. I think he tapped me to run the TV show. or the TV production.
So we talked about this offline when we were getting ready for the show. Could you tell the Terry Teague story? Because we talked about Terry Teague down here running a show in Alabama and not paying people and all that. Could you tell the Terry Teague story?
Okay, so Teague. Okay, when I came into NWA Main Event, I think the last time you and Trent were doing the Jerk in the Curtain show, he was. I came into NWA, and there were a couple episodes that were filmed. One was lost, one was filmed, and then I came in, and I wanted to get started, to say, hey, look, I can get this thing back up, and we're trying to rush, to get some show up, figure out how to actually do this thing. And we had two matches with Terry Teague and a guy from Alabama called Brawley. And he did a promo. But there were two matches. One week, I think Teague won it, and the other one, Brawley won it. I forget which one was which. The promo that he gave with Tyler Clemens was about he had just beaten Brawley, but it didn't make sense because I wanted to use the big F5 move that Brawley used in the show opener. And so I said, forget the first match. Let's put the second match on there. And when I was editing it, I didn't even think about it, but I'm like, he's talking about a match that he's won. We just showed a match that he's lost. So I kept showing replays of it. And it was just an accident that became, just so funny. A couple of weeks later, there was a guy, I think his cousin was a guy named Razor X. And they had some kind of thing that went on Jerry Springer. And then let me see if I get this right. They went on Springer, and he talked about how he, brought him up to the big time in Nashville, and some bounty hunters found him on Springer, looked up, wrestling in Nashville, found him on the NWA website, and came in and arrested him at the next show. Because they came backstage like, "Where's Terry Teague?" And everyone's like, "He's right there." Like they.
the brotherhood of wrestling came through. Where's Terry Teague? Well, here, let me get you some tea, and I'll just walk you right over there.
The first time that Bill Behrens came up, we had done the thing, and because you guys had talked about it. On the show, I was like, well, let's make a thing of this. So we had a battle royal where Teague was just, thrown over by Brawley. And I was going to like recapture that, that moment of let's interview this guy after, like, when there's no reason to interview him. So just as an excuse, we could show the replay from both angles of him getting thrown out, cut back, and then throw the two angles of him taking the F5. And then a fifth thing of there was some shark movie where I had him just like eating, like the shark just jumped up and ate a bunch of like civilians or something. And it was like Easter egg of the episode. Like if you make it to the end of the episode, I'm going to give you something funny. And then Jones came in and he told me, he's like, you can't do stuff like that. And immediately Teague walked in the back door and he said, that shark thing was awesome. And I'm like, see, it's a shark mark.
The shark thing was awesome.
Shark mark, yeah.
Andrew.
Go ahead.
Andrew, I got to ask you this. I mean, obviously you have a good sense of humor. I'm always of the mind that wrestling overall, I think, has lost a lot of the fun elements. I think that's a big problem in WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, indies that I see. I think there's a lot of attempted force fun, but I think very few guys actually are having it or are able to convey it. What is your thoughts on sort of comedy in wrestling, or how do you generate this feeling of fun, especially from the like TV production standpoint?
Well, let me. The shows that I'm around now, like, are you familiar with the guys that run Pro Wrestling Freedom or some of the RGE guys? Some of those guys that have kind of gotten out of it are kind of getting interested in going into comedy as a alternative to wrestling, and I don't think that makes any sense. I think we should have larger crowds because we have bigger buildings. Comedy should be coming to us and not the other way around. Like, we have to have the ability to kind of, laugh at, some of our own, our own jokes and say, okay, this didn't exactly work. How can we patch it up? when we were doing some of the TV things, we're like, well, that didn't really work. Like, we would come up with something in the production thing and say, hey, that's pretty funny. And if it made us giggle, like, it made the show. That's how that, I eventually went on to do RGE, and had just complete creative freedom. If we had a low crowd, I said, hey, let's, this would be funny. Let's just do it.
You did some really crazy things on that RGE show, and I'd love to, it'd be fun if you'd post some of those up, or at least one of them. I'd love to put one up on the website so people could see kind of like the stuff you were doing on there, because it was pretty creative on a low budget.
We had no budget. The hilarity of that promotion is we would drive to the show and we'd buy a camera from Walmart, go film the show. I would use the camera that I had as the main camera, even though I was roaming. And then on the way back, we would take the camera back to Walmart so that we had gas to get home. And I think we did that 5 times, like 4 or 5 times.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
It was really a one camera, no budget, production. And it's like, man, and now with cell phones and like $300 cameras that you have, like, there's no reason at all that every show should have, easy production that you couldn't have had, even 10 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. The struggle is real. Wow.
Like when a trainee comes in, like, one of the things, like, they need to spend some time doing sound or production or hold a camera, because you need to learn how to do that anyway. If you want to have any kind of if you just go and start having matches, it's like you're missing out on the experience of seeing how sound works, seeing how production works, or at least finding something that you can do on the side.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. When you look at the smarter guys in the wrestling business, guys who had a reputation, they were always guys who were willing to hang out in the truck, or they're guys that wanted to learn other aspects of the wrestling business. And I think it just enhances your overall presentation. I think you can't help but stumble upon better, if nothing else, how you look at the camera and how you present yourself to an audience. Once you see it, it's a painful experience watching yourself, and it's a painful experience seeing what it looks like when a show is shot and just going like, oh my God, that's what we look like,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, when we were running the show in Nashville, Saul was running at the same time, and then I think a third promotion or a TV thing was starting to kind of bubble out of the stadium. And I don't remember the exact order, but a couple people were trying to do stuff on their own, and they were, asked my advice. And I was like, it was a good attempt, but you don't want to, you need a couple practice episodes, before you're able to, really get in there too. Like, you don't realize what goes into, even a relatively simple, production of saying, okay, well, how do I edit sound? Because, even, especially the early episodes, there were a lot of little mistakes that I made. And it was like, that was the opportunity I had to, make those mistakes with, relatively low downside.
I got to ask one non-wrestling question. This whole thing about you being the highest ranked Boy Scout. Okay. How the hell does one become the highest ranked Boy Scout?
Okay, so
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that.
All right, so after Eagle, right, there are these ranks called and if you do like 5 merit badges and like 3 months of leadership, you have the opportunity to earn what's called a palm. And you could earn, I guess it would depend when you actually got an Eagle Scout, but you can get ranks above Eagle. At the time, there was another program that had just started called Venture, and it was designed for people, men and women, 14 through 21, as a way of doing more high adventure stuff. It was kind of like the old Explorer Post, but they were trying to rebrand some of the things. And there was another dude that was in my troop that was a few years younger than me, and we ended up in this ridiculous rank war where, like, because I was 5 above and he ended up getting like 9 above, but I waited until my 21st birthday to hand in 9 ranks. And so, like, there's no way time. Because the program was brand new, and there's no, like, people don't have rank wars in Scouts. I don't, but so I just assume And then he eventually came back and got, 30 total. I ended up with like 23. Eagle would be like the 7th rank. So that's the way that we kind of justified it, saying there's reasonably nobody else that was at that time, doing that kind of thing. And he's now a lawyer, and I went to wrestling, so it's
best in the world. It's the gimmick everybody wants, Andrew, and you can honestly claim the best. Yeah, and you just say scout like underneath your breath, right? You just go like best scout in the world, and then you just like,
When I was at Auburn, I was in the marching band back in 2000, around the 2004 time, where we got a thing called the Subler Trophy, which, I didn't know anything about at the time. It was like a national recognition. It's not like a national championship or something, but it's like the national recognition. And I was like, between scouts and that, I'm like, I kind of have 5 national recognitions in there somewhere. So I got like a book of tea thing going on. But
nice.
They gave us a
plaque. Just don't tell anyone what it's for, and you'll be good.
They gave us a plaque with our name on it. I was like, well, that's not good enough because, I'm like a wrestling fan. So I bought one of the old WCW titles, and I put an Auburn title on the side of it.
What you need to do, Andrew, is you need to get down to APW in Statesboro, kick a 10-year-old in the teeth, and take their title. Wow. Andrew, I cannot thank you enough for being on. Hope I wasn't too rough on you, and best of luck. Is there anything that you want to talk about that you're doing right now, wrestling-wise?
I'm just getting ready for the next school year, so I'm still waiting on because I'm a high school teacher now. I'm waiting on some new projects, so I don't really have anything to announce yet. But I just said keep an eye on the RGE wrestling show. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's still in the YouTube. And I think it's I Love RGE Wrestling on YouTube. But check those things out. So we had a blast making those, and there'll be some more stuff on there to come.